Hi, and welcome to the Ephphatha Bible Study for Wednesday, August 26th. My name is John Crabtree. I'm the pastor of First United Methodist Church in Mountain City and Trade United Methodist Church in Trade, Tennessee. Well, we're continuing our journey through Genesis. Today we're going to be looking at Joseph and his what happened to him in Egypt and the way he dealt with that. We're going to be in Genesis chapter 39. But before we do that, I want to share another mug with you, another mug created by my sweet wife. Another hand, I don't know if it's hand-thrown, hand-formed. I don't know the right technical term for that, sorry. But it's a coffee mug with some 3D nautical-themed stuff on it. It's got a sailboat and a lighthouse and other stuff like that. I really think it's cool. So I really treasure this. I don't put stuff in it. It's too important to me, so I just leave it on my display there. All right. So, Genesis chapter 39. Remember, Joseph was basically sold into slavery by his jealous brothers. And remember also that Joseph and the brothers are the leaders, the foundational people of the 12 tribes of Israel. So, it's really interesting that the people of God have all these characters, scoundrels, people who make really bad decisions in them. And to me, it speaks to the way God is able to work with just ordinary, cussed human people and use us to accomplish His will. So it's kind of shocking when you start to look at it, what some of these people get up to. But anyway, so Joseph has been taken away and sold as a slave in Egypt. So this kind of tells some of the things that go on. Genesis 39. Now Joseph was taken down to Egypt, and Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh, the captain of the guard, an Egyptian, bought him from the Ishmaelites who had brought him down there. The Lord was with Joseph, and he became a successful man. He was in the house of his Egyptian master. His master saw that the Lord was with him, and that the Lord caused all that he did to prosper in his hands. So Joseph found favor in his sight and attended him. He made him overseer of his house, and put him in charge of all that he had. From the time that he made him overseer in his house, and over all that he had, the Lord blessed the Egyptian's house for Joseph's sake. The blessing of the Lord was on all that he had, in house and field. So he left all that he had in Joseph's charge. And with him there, he had no concern for anything but the food that he ate. So, Joseph is in a bad situation. Joseph is in that situation through no fault of his own. And he's making the best of it. I think that's really interesting. He doesn't bewail his fate. He probably has some pretty dark moments when he's by himself, but he does the best that he can and makes the best out of a bad situation. And I'm not saying that makes it right, but I am saying that we need to try to find ways to succeed. One of our bishop used to say, for us to bloom where we're planted. We all have different circumstances, different problems that we have to deal with, and we need to find ways to thrive and blossom wherever we are. I'm not saying every situation is good, and I'm not saying that we need to just take it laying down, that we don't need to try to improve our situation or let bad things pass. I am saying that we need, as we're living our lives, we need to deal with the circumstances that come to us, and not all of our circumstances are going to be good. That's just the way life is. But God is with Joseph, and all that he's doing is prospering. God is going to use this situation to save the people of God from a famine. So we can have a long discussion, and we kind of touched on this last week, about, is this God's plan? Did the other brothers sell the youngest brother Joseph into slavery as part of God's plan? I don't see it. I don't think so. But I do know that God has this amazing ability to bring good out of almost impossible situations. And God does all sorts of good things for us, and has an amazing power to do good. So I'm not going to say that this was God's plan to start with, but I do think that our omnipotent God, seeing the envy in the brothers' hearts, saw that Joseph would be in this situation and then made his plans accordingly. And I think that theologically holds up throughout the scriptures. That kind of also holds up for the Jesus going to the cross. That God, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit saw that the message of the cross, the message of the Messiah, will be such a threat to the powers that be, that the powers that be, the worldly powers, will put Jesus to death. And that wasn't what God wanted to happen, but God, knowing that it would happen, found ways to turn that to his advantage. And so God used the sinful actions of Judas and the chief priests and the others in order to accomplish his purposes. So redeem them in a sense. That doesn't mean that God intended that to happen, and that's what God wanted to happen, but God used it. So I think that kind of pattern holds up throughout the New Testament. So Joseph's here, and he's making the best of it. God's blessing him, and he's doing the best job that he can. Again, we're finishing up verse 6. Now Joseph was handsome and good-looking. After a time, his master's wife cast her eyes on Joseph and said, "Lie with me." But he refused and said to his master's wife, "Look, with me here, my master has no concern about anything in the house, and he has put everything that he has in my hand. He is not greater in this house than I am, nor has he kept back anything from me except yourself, because you are his wife. How could I do this great wickedness and sin against God?" And though she spoke to Joseph day after day, he would not consent to lie with her or be with her. So Joseph knows what's right and what's wrong. This is before the law of Moses. This is obviously way before Christ came. So Joseph was paying attention to the leadings of his heart. He knew that it was wrong to do that, to help this woman break her promises, and for him to betray the trust of his master, his employer, would be a more comfortable term. But to do this thing would be wrong, and Joseph knew that. Verse 11. One day, however, when he went into the house to do his work, and while no one else was in the house, she caught hold of his garment, saying, "Lie with me." But he left his garment in her hand and fled and ran outside. When she saw that he had left his garment in her hand and fled outside, she called out to the members of her household and said to them, "See, my husband brought among us a Hebrew to insult us. He came in to me to lie with me, and I cried out in a loud voice. And when he heard me raise my voice and cry out, he left his garment beside me and fled outside." So she's lying. She's just flat lying. And Joseph is doing the best that he can to maintain his virtue. So he ran outside in his underwear. And, we'll just see what happens. Verse 16. Then she kept Joseph's garment, by her until his master came home. And she told him the same story, saying, "The Hebrew servant whom you have brought among us came in to me to insult me. But as soon as I raised my voice and cried out, he left his garment beside me and fled outside." When his master heard the words that his wife spoke to him, saying, "This is the way your servant treated me," he became enraged. And Joseph's master took him and put him into the prison, the place where the king's prisoners were confined. He remained there in prison. But the Lord was with Joseph and showed him steadfast love. He gave him favor in sight of the chief jailer. The chief jailer committed to Joseph's care all the prisoners who were in the prison, and whatever was done there, he was the one who did it. The chief jailer paid no heed to anything that was in Joseph's care, because the Lord was with him, and whatever he did, the Lord made it prosper. So, it seems like Joseph's going from bad to worse, bless his heart. He's been sold as a slave in Egypt. He's been very falsely accused and now thrown in prison. And he seems to be, from what we can tell, we don't know his inner dialogue, his inner thoughts or feelings, but according to his actions, he continues making the best of a bad situation. I'm sure there would, I know I would be kind of feeling sorry for myself and kind of moping around a lot. And Joseph may have done some of that too. He's not a superhuman. He's just trying to. Well, he's living a good life, and we should try to be like that too. So, the innocent man put in prison, which may not have been that uncommon back in those days. And so he goes on doing what he does. He's just trying to take care of people and do everything that he can. So that's a good example to us. I mean, we all get in bad situations. Things happen to all of us that we wished hadn't happened. Sickness, job loss, death, all sorts of things that we have to deal with as part of life that we don't like. But we know that God is with us, and we have this good example here of Joseph making the decision to keep on trying to do the best that he can in whatever situation he finds himself, and trying to live in a way that's pleasing to God. And so he didn't have to consult a bunch of rules or a bunch of things like that. He just basically consulted his heart and let God guide him in that, and he lived in a manner that was pleasing to God. So that's a good thing, and God showed God's faithfulness. Well, I think that's a good example for us to try to emulate, and I hope I'll be as courageous and brave as Joseph. And I thank God that God is good. Well, brothers and sisters, I hope you have a blessed week. We'll continue our time with Joseph and see what transpires. But until then, stay safe. Maintain all our coronavirus precautions and things. And remember always that God does love you. And we'll see you next week. Bye.